saw that mate from. And now we do see three and a
And
half to three and a half, which is very, very exciting.
there we go. My own chat's working, but I have to do it on mobile now, so I can think in real time. So I should be able to refund. Okay, no, I can't do it with a stream manager. Whatever. So did we see a different line this game? I wasn't looking.
Yes, we did.
Uh,
So after
saw
after Queen
B5.
H and after Queen H5, instead of Bishop to B7, which we normally see, we saw B5.
So this should just be pretty much like an E3 sideline here. I think Bishop A6 is fine to play. Oh, never mind, because you have King F1 now. Now that the
Yeah,
queen isn't there.
exactly. Yeah.
So this makes it interesting. It cuts off a lot of main lines.
Hmm.
You can't play E6 either, because after B5, D5, the king's unprotected. So maybe something like C6, bishop takes, knight takes, or knight takes, A4, knight takes, E5, takes
Hmm.
rook. Or
And
sorry, E4 takes rook.
then we see something similar to the antique defense, which is E3 B5, Bishop takes C6, and knight recaptures. So it's funny how after even after B6 was played, this looks like an incredibly B5 like line.
Yeah,
Ooh.
it just looks crushing for white too, though,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because
Now with
you
F.
can't exactly respond to this threat on H6
Mm-hmm.
or the F4 threat.
Yeah.
So
It provides a lot of threats, that E4 move by PepsiNGaming.
maybe you could try for G. I think G4 would be fine here, because if you sacked on H6, you could recapture with the knight, and then after G3, you could just move the knight back. You might run into bishop takes, but then sack the bishop, give the knight, and black is doing okay. Here, white goes rook H6, and we'll see which piece recaptures. But I think this is over. If the knight takes, you have G4
Mm-hmm.
takes, King D1 takes. If the queen takes at any point, you recapture with the bishop.
The problem though is that G5 pawn may eventually become a threat, possibly. Um, because if the D pawn's ever moved, your bishop will have to come down there. Let's see if we'll see if PepsiNGaming can work around that though, for sure.
Okay. I don't think King F2 works, because after queen takes, what's next, right? So you just let the queen take first and bring the bishop into play. So
Could see
uh,
maybe D4 here. It seems like it resolves.
what about a knight E2 and be fancy? If the queen takes, you recapture with the king, and then you take, or
Oh
after
yeah,
the bishop takes, you take on H3.
but it is
And if
quite.
the bishop takes first, then you just take immediately.
It is possible that white will have one pawn left. Um, but knight e2
Yeah.
could definitely be a possible move. From my perspective, I definitely see d4 as an incredibly crushing move. Even though your bishop would have to go down and capture on h6, there's just too many captures for black, because black has to capture on d4 with the queen, e1 with the king, and even after the queen captures on d4 with the queen, there's still the a1 and the g1 squares that the queen will have to go to next, and there's no future captures, no future captures for white.
So they probably both win. I think d4 would be a more reliable. Well, not maybe more.
Oh,
Knight
and we see
h3.
knight h3.
Did I miss something?
Maybe not.
I was gonna say d4 was better because nothing's
Yeah,
defended after that rook gets taken,
yeah.
and if the knight gets taken, then it's straightforward. There's only
Hmm.
one option.
Yeah.
Whereas with knight g2, you have a little bit of complications with the bishop on c1 and getting rid of everything. But knight h3, just
Yeah,
there's
it
no
doesn't.
mate now.
Yeah, exactly.
So not sure what happened.
Hmm.
But
So missing d4, but I think um, in this position, white does feel slightly stronger in my opinion, but even still, like d4 was definitely crushing. So we'll just see how it plays out from here. GrohochetGrom going very, very low on time. Uh, Also has to be careful. What nh3 does do is it forces the king to stay in front of the bishop. So if knight h3 does do something, it certainly does that.
We saw something like a4 from white here.
Mhm.
Just making sure that if the rook moves, the pawn will be able to sack on a5 and the knight becomes the target.
Yep.
Yep, there it is, a4. So now, even knight f2 isn't that bad here. It does release the pin on the king, but it just frees up space for your rook. So depending on what the players evaluate, could be good. Maybe we'll see king e2. Maybe it'll be rook d1. Maybe it'll be rook c1.
I was saying king
But I
e2
would try
definitely.
and
Yeah.
get
I was gonna
king
say
e2. Yeah.
king e2 does look very, very strong because it makes it so that like after g2 there's just so many threats. There's so many threats against black.
As Esco pointed out, instead of a5 there, black could have played rook b1 and some of the tension in the position was lost.
Very true.
However, then you're just stuck with a bunch of pieces that can't go anywhere.
And a fun game tied
Might
at
have
3.5. We see both players in with very low time, so this could get pretty exciting. And when in doubt,
Oh, this is a
oh,
win. Whatever white promotes to.
yep.
King c4, knight takes, knight f5, knight takes, knight e or g3.
And there we go.
We see it go to g3. So 4.5 to 3.5 for GrohochetGrom.
So that means if GrohochetGrom wins the next two games, GrohochetGrom will be considered the
Not necessarily. You need to win by 2.
even after 12 games. I thought the win by
Yeah,
2 rule was okay. I thought the win by 2 rule
I'm
was.
pretty sure you need to. I'm pretty sure you need to play all 12 with a win by 2. But
Oh, that's very true. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong. I just thought the win by 2 was for the extra games added on. I'm pretty sure that was just more of a tiebreaker, but I guess we'll see.
so here it just looks like black's in a terrible. Like I would not play this as black at any. Actually, you know what? I might in fast time controls, but I don't know. This position after knight h6, like the bishop's trapped, and there are quite a lot of defenses on this file. However, I think king d1 was a blunder because then, if at any point you do decide to play b4, the bishop will have to take on d6, and d2. You can't move it because the king got out of the x-ray. So maybe something like queen f3 to undermine the defense, or maybe you could play e5. After e5, I think it'd be met with e4. I don't see that as a bad line. Okay, I've got a couple people requesting hydrates, so I might go get a glass quickly. 1 second.
Yep. I will add to that bishop g7. Obviously, this pawn is defended several times. Doesn't appear to be any immediate intermediates that I see that come to mind. But this pawn is protected by both knights and both pawns, so definitely a very deeply protected square for white.
Okay, I've gotten my water. I will now drink as much as I can for Royal and Fox.
Oh, we could see knight b captures on c3. There we go.
That's like half. I'll do the second half later. Thanks for the follow, Patrick LFT. Thanks for tuning in. Ace, Squirrely. Ace, Squirrely.
Yeah, so you were correct. As Autumn Wind tournament director told me in the chat, it is win by two, so 6.5 to 5.5. Even if one is up, that would add two more games, and two more games would have to be played.
I got a bot in my channel. No, it's my first ban today. There we go. First ban on the channel was a bot. Feels bad, man. At knight d5 here, it could be safe to take with the. Yeah, there it is.
With the knight. And already
So
the game's going on. We've only how many games have we played? We've played 8 games, and it's been over an hour already. So that just shows how intense this really is. And GrohochetGrom once again in deep time trouble. Um, King c2, just getting the king more involved into the action. Maybe bishop to d2 becomes an option eventually now, as well. Threatening both the c5 and b6 pawns.
Mishi TV with a sub. Destroy them, and I'm not even playing. Okay, back to commentating.
Wow, and
I felt like a
now
30 viewer increase from that.
with d5, this looks like a standard chess Queen's Gambit decline sort of line.
I
It's just
wouldn't be
crazy.
surprised if this was like an actual chess game. Like it's a knight
Yeah,
for 4 pawns, and it's not like anything's like not reasonably developed, right? Like
yeah.
d4. I wouldn't see a knight. You wouldn't see knight recaptures, but
Having pawns on d4,
bishop.
c4, and e6 and b6 is certainly a strange thing to see in anti-chess.
It's like a stone wall kind of. And bishop b7 is a nice move because it grabs space on the long diagonal. Even if something like d5 happens, pawn can just recapture, and there's no worry.
And now this
So
bishop, although it already has problems developing, it will have even more problems because the bishop will cover the h1 square and can sack the rook. But with all this time trouble, it looks like it's going to be even tougher. See what happens.
king actually h5 first, and then king e7, f6, d4, a5, rook d1, rook d8 takes on d2. Game over.
Sorry, what was
Okay.
that? That
Thanks.
Here we go.
Yeah, there. Thanks for the follows, Bugatti, Limar, and 3 posture checks. So
And there we see it.
here we go. And the other hydrate for Royal, I will do now.
And 4.5, 4.5. So I'm assuming a break is likely happening right now because we do not see an immediate rematch. So 4.5 to
There we go.
4.5, incredibly close game. This game could go right down to the wire. Maybe we'll even see extra games. So
So
confirmed
I
GrohochetGrom called a break.
think Nookie was the one that.
Yep,
Yeah.
here it is. So 4.5, 4.5. So after 3 of the first
So
4 games being draws, there have been 0 draws since then.
I got another hydrate from Steuben. I gotta go get another water bottle and drink another half. God, thanks, Steuben.
Interesting to see what in the following matches what this break will do. Will GrohochetGrom, after calling this break, continue to go with b6 as black and continue to go with the same similar lines as white, or will there be sort of a bit of a switch up here, a change in idea, a change in concept, a change in a change in just ideas? It will be interesting to see what goes on after this, or So if that will happen, or if they'll come back and play the exact same thing, or if this is an intentional tactic to sort of throw PepsiNGaming off and then play something different.
Maybe he'll consider opening with a different opening. Maybe he'll do some quick theory, maybe on a c5, b6 sideline.
Yep.
To know what Nookie plays, and actually no, Nookie plays. Sorry, GrohochetGrom plays bishop d3 in response to c5. So maybe he'll switch something up and then go with b6 after takes, and black isn't doing too bad. Well, you still get the Liard Day defense effectively, but it's a different line. So.
Yep.
We're trying to contribute channel points to get me to eat the plastic water bottle. So, yeah. Any so which of these games has been your favorite so far tactically?
I have to say, although it did end up losing for black that game. I forget who it was, but I really enjoyed the game where white had pushed 4 pawns all the way up. Black had a pawn, I think it was on g2, and we saw the move. The rook was pinned behind the king, and because after the knight centralizing move, I forget where the knight was. I think it was knight to d6.
Knight.
Yeah, knight to d6 with the king on g6 and a rook on h6 and a pawn on g2. And although it was made eventually, I love that knight to d6, just forcing the king to move or the rook to get out of the pin. But even after the rook got out of the pin and moved down to h2, just giving up the king was enough. And after queen promotion, it was all over. But I certainly that knight to d6, or sorry, knight to d6 move in my mind was just so incredible to see, and it was really really fascinating because again the king couldn't move and have the knight capture because there was also a pawn on c6, and the rook would have had to capture that, and with all the pieces over here, certainly would have been a win for white. So I definitely would have to say that's been my favorite game so far. What about you?
Yeah, that I was gonna say the same thing, but it was in game 5, or wait, no,
Forget which game it was. I'm pretty sure PepsiNGaming ended up winning the game, so it was rather game.
No, it was GrohochetGrom that.
Oh, was it?
Oh wait, no, yeah, it was GrohochetGrom black resigned. Game 5, move 28, knight d6, total domination of the king and rook.
Yeah.
So
I just thought that was I just love that move. It's not a move that you see watching everyday games, and it's just tactically it's extremely sound, and really taking advantage of the fact that the rook is pinned behind the king and the fact that the rook can't move anywhere else. The other thing that knight on d6 did is it cut off the rook from moving to the h file, which I just find fascinating. It just covered any defense black had to any other move, which is pretty cool.
yeah, I think there was another tactic that Pepsi had in game, I think it was game 7, where it was something in the end game that's caught my eye. If my internet allows it, I will check it out.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Oh, my sound effects are not working.
Give me 1 second.
I think it was just the whole sequence after rook f1, where Grohochet blundered the whole the g5 play, and then giving everything on the queen side, make room for that king side. It was a nice mate find. I think it evaluated it at mate in 13. Yeah.
And as we were talking about before in the game, bringing back the knight to f1 in that game was incredibly crucial. Reason being is because and then after we do see the rook to f1 move blocking off the knight, there is it's immediately mate in 13 for black. So I just That was another one. That was certainly interesting. Knight moving to
You'll
f4.
likely see these puzzles end up on chess variance training, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Whether by Tullius or one of us, or somebody else,
Hmm.
Royal Fox, whoever decides to contribute.
And
But
which game was it that there was a possibility for d4? Was that the game previous to or the game after?
there's a lot of opportunities for d4, but I'm pretty sure it was game 8, the one that you're talking about anyway.
Okay.
Also, for those of you watching on Twitch, I'm setting up a prediction. So you'll be able to bet channel points on the winner of the series, and all the winners share the points from the losing pot.
And yes,
Uh,
the
Thanks for
great
follow, Sunfish Ho.
um really quickly in that game when we mentioned d4 and knight e2 were the two moves we were considering after looking at it on the analysis board both d4 and knight e2 are mate in 8, whereas the next best move is just evaluated at uh, at plus 18, which is still definitely winning, but it just shows that knight e2 and d4 were certainly the two strongest moves, and we have the game back on. Um, and we're right into
Okay,
we're,
I'm.
yeah, we're right into the c4 line that PepsiNGaming likes to play with bishop c4. Um, uh, exact same line that we've seen. I forget what game it was, one of the earlier games. But PepsiNGaming switches it up this time instead of knight to f4, where we saw bishop to g7. In this game we see f4, and what this does is now with g5, the knight does not capture on g5. Obviously, you're gonna take with the pawn on g5, and sort of eliminates that threat.
Did did I crash? I think maybe.
You still there?
Yeah, I thought I crashed for a second
Okay.
because I opened up Stream Manager to do the prediction, but
Did you
clearly I can't do that.
did they hear my explanation on f4?
Yes, I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure they
probably.
heard it
Okay,
because I
okay.
heard it. So.
So f5, obviously, with
But
that break, PepsiNGaming realizing that f4 was a stronger move, and GrohochetGrom not really focusing on that game, but we do see f5, which just blocks it immediately.
uh, B3 or sorry, B4 D3 viable in your opinion, do you think?
Um, I think at the moment it probably is. Oh wait, unless I see the big threat right now being g4, and after the pawn takes, there's a possibility for f4, but I think in the time being after f4, as long as you recapture the pawn, you are creating threats with pawns there. So b4 d3, in my opinion, I love that setup. It just feels super natural. This position a little bit difficult to evaluate, but I think it's still safe at this point at least. And we do see knight to
There we go.
f2, just bringing the knight back, creating lots of threats here. For those of you
Actually,
who go ahead, sorry.
I kind of like I kind of liked 11 D4 or sorry,
11,
10 D4.
10,
Uh,
D.
just
Oh, I
just
see.
because even if something like uh, sorry G5 happens, pawn takes, F4, bishop takes, there's still no way that you can possibly sack all of your pieces on.
Um,
Um, I'm in the middle of something, so just give me a minute, please.
no, rook to g1. Obviously, the threat being the two places that black can sack pieces. In this case, are g5, but that square is defended 3 different times, and g8 where it's defended twice by both the rook and the knight. So rook g1 is a safe move. Also, for those of you who are slightly new to anti-chess, the reason you don't just see, for example, there like the move knight to e4 or d4 or something or knight to f4, sorry, knight to g4, is because in anti-chess it's not necessarily about the speed that you give your piece away. It's more of the efficiency. So can you control as much of the board as you can, and can you make that lead to presenting all of your captures in a row rather as one at a time? Because eventually, if you get left with a couple pieces, the other side can certainly take advantage of it.
The prediction that I ran on the channel. You wanna guess how many channel points are going to who?
I have no idea.
We have currently got what is it at? 5 for PepsiNGaming and 95 for GrohochetGrom.
Oh
So we
wow.
will see who's victorious there.
Yeah. I'm really interested. As I said before the match, this game, in my opinion, is a complete toss-up. Both players are incredibly strong and both play incredibly differently. Um, in addition to this, a little bit of self-promotion here, but if you guys enjoy this and you want to rewatch it afterwards, I'm also recording on my end, and I will post it on a YouTube channel once the game finishes. So
I thought 15 knight f6 could be good there, because not only does it threaten knight d5, but you also have knight g4 and knight e4, as well as e4 normally, and all of them white can't sack anything more than a couple pieces from him. So I think it's worked better. It does now allow white to play knight c3, because this knight no longer guards these couple squares.
GrohochetGrom down to
But
1 second. Oh, and down to all the way to 0.6, which is pretty impressive. Another possibility for knight h6 is just possibly to eventually put some pressure on the bishop, and especially with this little time, it's very difficult. And with these stakes, it's incredibly difficult to see what's really going on. B4, yeah, b4 should just be crushing here. Oh, and that's a very nice move.
After knight takes, rook takes here.
Yeah. After rook takes, obviously bishop to b2 likely.
b7. Oh yeah, b2. Yeah. King f1, knight out of the way. King e1.
Yeah,
I guess doesn't really matter as long as the king stays. Or actually, any move except for something to f2 1, or well, moving the knight lost. But
and PepsiNGaming goes up
yeah.
5.5 to 6. So this could be the final game if PepsiNGaming wins this. Oh wait, sorry, no. Because after 6.5, GrohochetGrom could still only be down by 1.
So, Impenitent is going for his masters, so nice.
I really
He's got a job too, which is why he's closing everything. So
before King D1 that position, what do you like to play? Like I look at E4 and I really like E4 immediately just because F5 and D5 aren't really options. D5 because it opens up the bishop, and F5 because it hurts your E pawn. King D1 just feels a little
E4
bit passive. Yeah.
E4 and knight F3 would probably be my top two. Because knight f3, you're bringing your knight closer to the center while at the same time maintaining the threat on g5. And even if something like e5 does happen, knight takes, and these pawns are well guarded.
Yep,
so
very true.
King c2, maybe we might see something like bishop g7. F4 openings pointing at c4, which could also be good, because even if knight here, king sacks, takes, white's pieces are trapped. So
So we should say if PepsiNGaming gets 1.5 out of the next out of the next 2 games,
I've been muted this whole time.
Yeah. Oh.
I've been muted this whole time.
I know that I was just gonna say that after if PepsiNGaming wins 1.5 out of the next 2 games, then he will be declared the champion. So I just thought I'd add that in there. One thing I'm not a huge fan of in White's position is how clamped it feels. The bishop and knight and rook on the queen side, very stuck together. King's also down there. You've maneuvered your knight, but you're not going to play knight a3 anytime soon. because of the pawn on c4. Your rook's not going to be able to move out, so it just feels very, very clamped down. Whereas black definitely has a lot more space and a lot more options. Space to move with the queen. You have pawns to push, and yeah.
White still has space. It's just not where it matters. Like
Yeah.
Queen F6 here. I guess King D3 maybe. But like after you have to take here, and then you can recapture with the knight. And then after pawn takes, the knight moves and takes, and then white was doing fine. So I think Queen F6, King D3 was best for white. Reason being, you can't take here because after c5 you have to take an undefended piece, and it's pretty easy for white to undefend. So either they help white gain more space, or yeah, I missed a lot of moves.
Does king d3 and then knight to d2? Does that look, or king d3, knight to a3? Is that winning, or is that just giving away pieces?
Well, what about king d3, bishop to bishop to e3? King
Very,
takes.
very
Or,
true.
sorry, king
Yeah.
d3, pawn takes, bishop there, pawn takes on b6,
And then
pawn
after the
takes,
recapture, then
knight a3, and it's winning.
yeah.
So Pepsi needs to do something about do. Yep, king d3 should just be winning now.
One problem I do see though, oh wait, yeah, you're very correct. There, and
There's
he sees
nothing
exactly
there.
that. Yep. Knight a3, and then after yep. Rook
Yeah,
to
rook anywhere except
b1. Yeah,
not
there we
here.
go.
Rook should probably take on b2.
Yep. So rook b2, rook captures b2, and then we'll just see probably
c4,
yep,
and then f4.
c4, f4, like anything wins at this point. Yep, there we go. So GrohochetGrom, now we're tied 5.5, 5.5. So this guarantees that two games will be added on. And we see the Bosnian this time. So bishop to a6. Main line is yeah d3, queen captures. Generally we see rook b8 here, but I guess and we see h6 forcing the capture here. That is one thing that does is allow the bishop to come out, whereas if we saw the main line with rook to b8, queen captures, and then rook recaptures, then we might see something like b4, c4, and it's a lot more forcing. This line's certainly lesser played, but most likely GrohochetGrom has some opening preparation that we do not know about.
I guess GrohochetGrom could try for. Maybe you could go knight f6. Knight here takes. The reason why white doesn't have the move bishop c3 is that if the knight has to stack, black would just be able to take the bishop on c3. So I would have thought knight f6 to be safe.
I just realized that this whole time it got dark outside, and so my face could not be seen, but there we go.
Oh,
You can see me again.
I mean, I don't have your face in my screen.
No,
so
I know.
You're talking to your future viewers here.
Yeah, I'm talking to my future YouTube viewers that you will not be able to see my face for part of the game because it suddenly got dark out, and so I had to turn on a light right now.
Ooh. Queen f7. Point being, if take on a7, take a7, rook has to sweep, and if take on c7, 7, king takes, rook takes, and again rook has to sweep. So I think.
Sorry, after knight
Queen
captures,
f7 should be.
Knight captures on c7, then what? Sorry.
Knight captures c7, takes a7.
Yep.
Rook takes a7, king takes, rook takes, bishop, and then the rook has space.
That's very true.
This is
Yeah.
the line.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
very
now
solid. However,
white's the one feeling cramps.
Oh wait, if we go back one move, I think king to king to d2 could have been very, very strong. It forces the rook to capture there, I'm pretty sure. Sorry, forces the rook to sacrifice on a1.
Where? Sorry? Which move?
Move 14, king to d2, because it forces the rook
Oh yeah,
to
king to d2 could
sacrifice.
have worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But instead we see
I
these
think
series of
the
moves.
I think the whole point of knight c2 was to bring the knight into a more freer space. So it being cramped on e2 and g3, there's not much to do because the pawns are on dark squares. And so rerouting it over to the queen side where it has a lot more space and it can maintain pressure from a distance on this king would be better. I think that's what Pepsi had in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Autumn Wind is questioning 17g3, but I don't think it's terrible because after h5, you can slide the rook over to... Oh, actually you can't slide the rook anywhere. It's after rook f1, pawn takes, and then the bishop's hanging. After g2 takes. Yeah, you're still... I don't know what I think about 19 g3.
And Pepsi coming down with the aggressive knight b4 now. If he can somehow get his knight to b5, it's incredibly strong. But it's just, it would be very strange how there's no way to maneuver your knight there right now. Maybe c2 to a3 to b5, but it's just so many moves.
Obviously, if pawn does sack on f3, you have no choice but to recapture with the e-pawn. Maybe something like... I don't know. Well, it's gonna...
Yeah, there's not
Knight
a lot of
c2?
moves. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was
Because
thinking
knight c2 fails to...
maybe trying knight c2, a3, b5, but
Yeah, I'm not sure what Black's plan is with the king here, whether they're trying to save it,
oh,
and
I think Black's playing with the king. I thought you were talking about
yeah.
white. Purpose of
Well,
the white king move is so that after giving up the king, the threat before was I don't know if it worked out, but e3 and then g5 will open up the white rook. Um, I don't know if it actually resolves, but at least that's what he's looking for. Obviously, he's also keeping a lot of time on his side.
f4 opening suggests knight f6. I'll take a look at that move. Knight f6. Yeah, knight f6 would be decent. Here, rook d1. The plan is if e3 at any point, king can recapture, and the rook will have a very nice file.
Very true.
A1
That's
doesn't
exactly
exactly
what we see.
force space, and then with c1 and b1, the files are closed.
And now it
So.
looks like a massive threat of rook to d6. Right now, not like I don't know if it's completely winning because of
Oh, wonder.
There we go. Okay, now rook to
h3, g4, rook d6.
Yep, there we go.
It's game.
Yep. So basically anything now. There it is.
Yep. King d2 and then b4.
And PepsiNGaming up currently 6.5 to 5.5. So
they have to play,
two
more games now.
2 games from here. Yep. And
Yeah.
we
So
see
Pepsi needs
we see b6 again.
Pepsi needs a draw and a win.
Yep. And this line, so probably d3. We'll see. Yep. d3 captures, queen c7, knight d2.
Oh yeah, this
Oh,
is
but
like a weird.
this time he goes
It's
for
like a
knight c3.
combination of.
Knight c3, I'm pretty sure knight c3 is much more difficult to play against. I'm pretty sure if I'm correct, the move here is bishop to a3.
Bishop a3. Let's see. Bishop a3 takes king. Takes. Yeah, I guess bishop a3 isn't totally losing.
I'm pretty sure
So,
bishop a3 is the engine move at least.
well, yeah, engine move. I suggest bishop a3, but I guess
You're
after
also
bishop
giving up your
a3, you
king.
might. Yeah, you take the king, and then rook takes, pawn takes, and
Probably
then black
probably
is
more
kind of cramped on the king side, but white is missing a king. So.
probably more human move here is rather maybe king e2 or king d1, just keeping your king.
King e2, queen takes d3, pawn takes. What happens after b3? Pawn takes, and then that knight is in a bad spot
Hmm.
because
And
the
in
bishop's
addition to
there.
that,
I guess
hmm
bishop b7, but then after rook takes, uh, bishop takes, rook takes, rook takes, bishop takes. Got yeah, black should be winning after that. So because this square is double defended, and then this one only has the king. Because the pawn would be here, and there's no pawn there.
and rook to
Move the
h1 just
bishop back after
completely
this pawn moves up.
just completely being passive, just saying, okay, I'm gonna stay calm here. Problem I see in this case is actually queen takes on e1. It might get a little bit tricky for white there playing the rest of the game without a king.
Queen takes e1, rook h8. And then after takes f2, takes g8,
I don't know if
and
the
then
capture would
takes
be.
d2.
I don't know if would the capture be on f2 there. If rook h8, then maybe
Yeah, I guess you could have.
captures on g1, and then after the capture after the capture on g8, then you immediately capture on c1. So then black has to rather capture on g7, in which recapturing the bishop is fine now, because the rook will have to move off of a1.
Rook a1 here. I'd probably keep my pawn on b3 because it just has a lot of pressure there. Knight c6 is a good move because it attacks this weak d square. So if the pawn doesn't move, this you have knight d4, e5, bishop d6 coming. So, and then you could move your king out of the way.
Yeah.
Maybe sack it on c7, maybe on b8.
And even after what's it? Yep. And then after e5, you could have seen knight f3, but it looks like Gaming has calculated this incredibly quickly. Now
After
he can even set up a double capture possible with rook b8.
Yeah, he just needs to play it in time because there is the knight g4, and he can get rid of his entire kingside here. So GrohochetGrom counterattacks with a3, and then rook takes. Kex has pointed out that ba3 is mate on move.
Wait, what if we see?
On move 9.
Ooh, wait, rook b8. Oh wait, never mind. I was thinking rook b8 and
Yeah,
then
because this pawn is double defended.
there, take. Just looking for any intermediates
Well,
that
we're both
white
Keck.
might have. Oh, what if we see?
Yeah, bishop b7 doesn't work because the rook can take on d8.
Yep. And black not only has the time advantage, but will also have the major piece advantage. White with a lot of pawns sitting back, and all we'll have to do is black can wait for white to push the pawns towards black at this point. Whether black will be able to convert or not, I guess we'll see. But certainly looks very good for black from both an analysis and a time point of view.
Yeah, and Penitent pointed out ba3 you take rook. So b5 and then rook takes doesn't
When he
actually
goes
look too bad,
immediately
but
for
I
the
guess Pepsi found a
promotion.
better one. I don't. I mean, rook loses, queen loses, bishop loses,
King loses.
knight loses. Yeah. So after knight e6, actually no, you have to play g4 first. King takes. Oh, okay, we see bishop.
I
Thanks for the follow, Chess Messi 14.
think the idea here, yep, is b5, and then after the bishop takes, pawn captures. Pawn captures. We will see knight to f6, and then after giving away the pawn, PepsiNGaming wins. So all he needs at this point is one win, and he is the champion.
Yeah, there needs to be another match though.
Yeah, I don't know if he recognizes it.
I don't think he does. We'll have to see.
There we go. So PepsiNGaming, can you draw this or win to become the next world champion? And we see e3 once again. Will we see b6 again?
Bruh.
Oh, and we see c5 from GrohochetGrom again.
Going with the mage.
Yep, and then we'll see the same main line again. We see queen
Correct
to
me if I'm wrong,
g4.
but I'm pretty sure Pepsi won with this. So
Main line g6.
maybe
Yep.
just
And they've played in every game so far.
let's
H5 has been played. And then last game we saw f4, and Pepsi, I'm pretty sure, did win with that.
Yep. Because it was the last white game, I think, or two, and both of them Pepsi won. So
We see knight captures this time though, which is a little different from last time. Last time we saw king captures.
behind knight captures, g5 is now a threat because after here, there's bishop g7. Are we going to see another bishop g7 takes g6?
Yeah.
Takes b2, takes a8, or h8 takes a1 maybe? Who knows? Maybe. What if we see something wacky like knight b c6?
Knight b c6. Oh, we do see bishop g7 though. Most likely cap. Yeah, there we
Take
go.
a8.
Will we see take on
No, I mean
a1?
you have to take h8.
Nope. He takes on c1 this time. It'll be interesting to see how PepsiNGaming changes if he does change up his strategy to go straight for the draw, and he goes for a very, very nice knight to c4. Correct me if I'm wrong, but only move, or I guess knight a6 was good, but there wasn't very many moves in the position.
Knight a6, he's saying whether it loses or knight c4.
No, I was saying I was just saying that there are extremely few moves in the position for black. So pressuring the knight here. Always a side threat. Now this knight is now this black knight is stuck on a6 as well, because if the knight ever moves, then knight b6, and then after a takes b6, the rook opens up on the a file.
So I guess the only move here is what, knight back to g8.
Yes, it does appear so, because obviously knight back to c8, and you run into knight to d6.
And if king moves somewhere, then you've got the sequence f4, e5, knight e3, king d2, and then Rook g1 takes c2, g4 takes, sack, and then black won't reach in time.
Yeah.
So
Certainly, or at least most likely, only move for black is knight g8, and we see it. There it is. One threat though is Pepsi might even just continue pushing this f pawn with f5, and there we see it. I'm just checking.
So I guess the king doesn't have to sacrifice itself, because if the pawn does push, you've only got knight e5 and e4.
Yep.
If you want to sacrifice more, you'd have to move your king up, but then black can exploit that with rook b8.
So maybe
because
we'll
then
see.
The rooks are doubled.
Yeah, maybe we'll see a possible threat in the position might be c3. Oh, but not anymore. We see. There we go. We see knight to. One massive threat I see here is just keeping black in zugzwang though. Is just playing something simple like king to d1, because obviously, or something of that nature. Another possible move in the position, actually, maybe even rook to g1.
Rook to g1. Yeah, rook to g1. After rook to g1, you've got knight g6, and then if the rook does sacrifice, you've got okay. He goes this way instead.
So he goes rook b1.
So with rook b1, the knight and the rook both defend a8. Nothing reaches b6. Okay, it gives the knight very, very quickly too. But the point is, knight and pawn both defend at c4, and none of the other squares could be reached.
So Pepsi just looking for a draw here. It's looking fairly
obviously
fairly strong for him at this point.
Black has to decline the draw here. Because if he accepts it, he loses. So Grohochet is playing for a win.
Pepsi situation.
Pepsi, okay. I was debating on whether or not to comment on e4, because after knight d5, then what? Like, you either keep the knight there, or you just rook d1 is nice. Because these two squares that the knight can attack are both covered by the pawns.
Right.
So
that's a really nice move. I can't believe he found that so quickly too. I was thinking knight d7, but obviously that doesn't work because pawn captures, and then otherwise anything to d5 is also pawn captures, which is why that was just incredibly strong.
So I think Pepsi here just wants to make it so that it's only a knight, so I'm gonna guess rook promotion. Yep.
There we see it.
Yep. Knight doesn't have very many safe squares. So maybe knight c5 if he's in trouble, but no, that doesn't work. So king promotion here would probably be forcing.
There it is.
Rook sack maybe here. I don't know.
Rook sack would be tough just because the pawns are so close to the white side of the board, or the black promotion side.
Yeah. So h3. If black gets his king up in time, then, or actually after this take, black doesn't even need to do anything. He promotes to rook, slides over to g1, and sacks on h4.
And in this case, knight b8 and king b1 both don't work, just because you still have the h pawn that you'd have to move to h3, and by that time white has played rather rook to b2 or king to d2.
Yep. So Pepsi pretty much has to play. Can't move his king to b1 or b2. Pawn to h3 maybe, but then you've got rook here takes, and the king's not in time, so the king would have needed to be on e3. But now there's this move here, so as long as Pepsi can secure a draw, he's fine. I would probably play. I don't know what I'd play here. You know, if this was fast time control, I probably would have played like rook e4. I would have tried to go for the idea like, oh yeah, you can't sack here, and then just completely forget about the h pawn or something like that. But maybe king e3, because yes, you do allow this, but then it just puts pressure on the knight. So
and king promotion.
Okay, so now you need to sack. Oh wait, no, still not in time because okay, well,
Now a sacrifice is likely to happen at least.
I still might play King E3 first, but it
There,
just
and
looks
he
like a draw.
does. Yeah.
Okay, well, King B3, wasting no time. Okay, King A3. This just allows the king to be cramped in the corner, and it allows the kings to get closer if you do decide to sack. So like if you go King A3, then to B3, you've just wasted a move, and white is closer to your pawn.
I was interested to see rather that move by white. King e4 is also an option, just slowly closing in on the black king.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly the point. Oh, did my stream go down again? Yeah, it did.
And at this point, and he gives
It's
it
just.
up. Oh,
Oh, there we go.
probably
There we go. It's back.
probably king d3 maybe. Yep, and there we see king d3. I think this is probably over.
Well, you just gotta prevent king promotion here. So king D3 does that, because if king promotion, you've got king
And
C2, then
that is it. That is
yep.
your world champion of the 2020. So 2020 Antichess world champion is PepsiNGaming. Congratulations to PepsiNGaming. What an amazing series.
Clap for Pepsi. And yep, stream crashed. Nice.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, I'm gonna shut my stream down right now. I'm probably gonna do an analysis video on this entire match eventually, but what an incredible match. Two incredibly strong players with PepsiNGaming and GrohochetGrom. An amazing series to watch. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you soon.